Reading through the Bible in 1 year, June 28th, Deuteronomy 33 through 34, Psalm 119, verses 145 through 176, Isaiah chapter 60, and Matthew chapter 8. Now, if this is your first time going through this with us, when we finish these two chapters, congratulations, you'll have finished the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, which historically have been something that people who start off to read the Bible, as everybody does in the beginning of the year, they never get this far. Reading the Pentateuch is the most important thing you can read to understand not only the rest of the Old Testament, but all of Scripture. And we've seen this. We've seen God revealed through his interactions with the people, through his creation mandate, through how he cares for his people, about how important it is to keep his laws as he's laid them out ahead of you. And he's done all of these things in these first 5 books. This is why this is so important to understand this information. And when most people stop halfway through Genesis, or maybe the first 5 or 6 chapters into Exodus, they're missing all of the depth of really who God is and who we are in relation to him. This is the entire groundwork that we need to understand the rest of Scripture. And again, if this is your first time through this, congratulations. This is a big deal. Let's get there. Verse 1. This is the blessing that Moses, the man of God, gave the Israelites before his death. He said, "The Lord came from Sinai and appeared to them from Seir. He shone on them from Mount Paran and came with 10,000 holy ones, with lightning from his right hand for them. Indeed, he loves the people. All your holy ones are in your land." Reread that. All your holy ones are in your hand. They assemble at your feet. Each receives your words. Moses gave us instruction, a possession for the assembly of Jacob. So he became king in Jeshurun. When the leaders of the people gathered with the tribes of Israel, "Let Reuben live and not die, though his people become few." He said this about Judah, "Lord, hear Judah's cry and bring him to his people. He fights for his cause with his own hands. But may you be a help against his foes." He said about Levi, "Your Thummim and Urim belong to your faithful ones. You tested him at Massah and contended with him at the waters of Meribah." He said about his father and mother, "I do not regard them." He disregarded his brothers and didn't acknowledge his sons, for they kept your word and maintained your covenant. They will teach your ordinances to Jacob and your instruction to Israel. They will set incense before you and hold burnt offerings on your altar. Lord, bless his possessions and accept the work of his hands. Break the back of his adversaries and enemies so that they cannot rise again. About Benjamin, he said, "The Lord's beloved rests securely on him. He shields him all day long and he rests up on his shoulders." He said about Joseph, "May his land be blessed by the Lord with the dew of heaven's bounty and the watery depths that lie beneath, with bountiful harvest from the sun and the abundant yield of the seasons, with the best products of the ancient mountains and the bounty of the eternal hills, with the choice gifts of the land and everything in it, and with the favor of him who appeared in the burning bush. May these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince of his brothers. His firstborn bull has splendor and horns like those of a wild ox. He gores all the peoples with them to the ends of the earth. Such are the 10,000s of Ephraim, such are the thousands of Manasseh." He said about Zebulun, "Rejoice, Zebulun, in your journeys, and Issachar in your tents. They summon the peoples to a mountain. Therefore, they accept acceptable sacrifices." Saying that again. They offer acceptable sacrifices. "For they draw from the wealth of the seas and the hidden treasures of the sand." About Gad, "The one who enlarges Gad's territory will be blessed. He lies down like a lion and tears off an arm or even a head. He chose the best part for himself because a ruler's portion was assigned there for him. He came with the leaders of the people. He carried out the Lord's justice and his ordinances for Israel. He said about Dan, Dan is a young lion leaping out of Bashan. He said about Naphtali, Naphtali, enjoying approval, full from the Lord, or rather full of the Lord's blessing. Take possession to the west and the south. He said about Asher, may Asher be the most blessed of the sons. May he be the most favored among his brothers and dip his foot in olive oil. May the bolts of your gate be iron and bronze, and your strength last as long as you live. There is none like the God of Jeshurun, who rides the heavens to your aid, the clouds in his majesty. The God of old is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. He drives out the enemy before you and commands destroy. So Israel dwells securely. Jacob lives untroubled in a land of grain and new wine. Even his skies drip with dew. How happy are you, Israel? Who is like you, a people saved by the Lord? He is the shield that protects you, and the sword you boast in. Your enemies will cringe before you, and you will tread on their backs. Now 34. Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which faces Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land, Gilead as far as Dan, all of Naphtali, the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, and the plain in the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, as far as Zoar. The Lord then said to him, this is the land I promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your own eyes, but you will not cross into it. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the Lord's word. He buried him in the valley, in the land of Moab, facing Beth Peor, and no one to this day knows where his grave is. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not weak, and his vitality had not left him. The Israelites wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. Then the days of weeping and mourning for Moses came to an end. And Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands on him. So the Israelites obeyed him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. No prophet has arisen again in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. He was unparalleled for all the signs and wonders of the Lord sent him to do against the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh, to all of his officials, and to all his land, and for the mighty acts of power and terrifying deeds that Moses performed in the sight of all Israel. Let's move on now to Psalm 119, verses 145 through 176. Kof. I called with all my heart. Answer me, Lord. I will obey your statutes. I call to you, save me, and I will keep your decrees. I rise before dawn and cry out for help. I put my hope in your word. I am awake through each watch of the night to meditate on your promise. In keeping with your faithful love, hear my voice. Lord, give me life in keeping with your justice. Those who pursue evil plans come near. They are far from your instruction. You are near, Lord, and all your commands are true. Long ago I learned from your decrees that you have established them forever. Resh. Consider my affliction and rescue me, for I have not forgotten your instruction. Champion my cause and redeem me. Give me life as you promised. Salvation is far from the wicked, because they do not study your statutes. Your compassions are many, Lord. Give me life according to your judgments. My persecutors and foes are many. I have not turned from your decrees. I have seen the disloyal and feel disgust because they do not keep your word. Consider how I love your precepts. Lord, give me life according to your faithful love. The entirety of your word is truth. Each of your righteous judgments endures forever. Sin, or shin. Princes have persecuted me without cause, but my heart fears only your word. I rejoice over your promise, like one who finds vast treasure. I hate and abhor falsehood, but I love your instruction. I praise you 7 times a day for your righteous judgments. Abundant peace belongs to those who love your instruction. Nothing makes them stumble. Lord, I hope for your salvation and carry out all your commands. I obey your decrees and love them greatly. I obey your precepts and decrees, for all my ways are before you. Taw. Let my cry reach you, Lord. Give me understanding according to your word. Let my plea reach you. Rescue me according to your promise. My lips pour out praise, for you teach me your statutes. My tongue sings about your promise, for all your commands are righteous. May your hand be ready to help me, for I have chosen your precepts. I long for your salvation, Lord, and your instruction is my delight. Let me live, and I will praise you. May your judgments help me. I wander like a lost sheep. Seek your servant, for I do not forget your commands. Now Isaiah chapter 60. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord shines over you. For look, darkness will cover the earth, and total darkness the peoples. But the Lord will shine over you, and his glory will appear over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to your shining brightness. Raise your eyes and look around. They all gather and come to you. Your sons will come from far away, and your daughters on the hips of nursing mothers. Then you will see and be radiant, and your heart will tremble and rejoice, because the riches of the sea will become yours, and the wealth of the nations will welcome you. Caravans of camels will cover the land, young camels of Midian and Ephah. All of them will come from Sheba. They will carry gold and frankincense and proclaim the praises of the Lord. All the flocks of Kedar will be gathered to you. The rams of Nebaioth will serve you and go up on my altar as an acceptable sacrifice. I will glorify my beautiful house. Who are these who fly like a cloud, like doves to their shelters? Yes, the coasts and islands will wait for me, with ships of Tarshish in the lead, to bring your children from far away, their silver and gold with them. For the honor of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, who has glorified you, foreigners will rebuild your walls, and their kings will serve you. Although I struck you in my wrath, yet I will show mercy to you with my favor. Your city gates will always be open. They will never be shut day or night, so that the wealth of the nations may be brought into you, and with their kings being led in procession. For the nation and the kingdom that will not serve you will perish. These nations will be annihilated. Again, these are all the promises that the people were hoping was going to happen when Jesus returned. They don't understand that these are talking about when Jesus returns the second time, and when he comes with the new, basically the new heaven and the new earth and the new Jerusalem. We already read this in Book of Revelation. But this is when the people in the Gospels keep asking Jesus, when will you return with your kingdom? Or when will it take place? This is what they're expecting. Verse 13, the glory of Lebanon will come to you, its pine, elm, and cypress together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will glorify my dwelling place. The sons of your oppressors will come and bow down to you. All who reviled you will fall face down at your feet. They will call you the city of the Lord, Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Instead of you being deserted and hated with no one passing through, I will make you an object of eternal pride, a joy from age to age. You will nurse on the milk of nations and nurse at the breast of kings. You will know that I, the Lord, am your Savior and Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. I will bring gold instead of bronze, and I will bring silver instead of iron, bronze instead of wood, and iron instead of stones. I will appoint peace as your government and righteousness as your overseers. Violence will never again be heard in your land. Devastation and destruction will be gone from your borders. You will call your walls salvation, and your city gates praise. The sun will no longer be your light by day, and the brightness of the moon will not shine on you. The Lord will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your splendor. Your sun will no longer set, and your moon will not fade, for the Lord will be your everlasting light, and the days of your sorrow will be over. All your people will be righteous. They will possess the land forever. They are the branch I planted, the work of my hands, so that I may be glorified. The least will become 1,000, and the smallest a mighty nation. I am Yahweh. I will accomplish it quickly in its time. Let's move on now to Matthew chapter 8. When he came down from the mountain, this is after the Sermon on the Mount, large crowds followed him. Right away, a man with leprosy came up and knelt before him, saying, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Reaching out his hand, Jesus touched him. Again, something you don't do to people with leprosy or the serious skin disease. You don't touch them at all. But Jesus reaches out and touches him and says, I am willing, be made clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. Then Jesus told him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priests and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testimony to them. Again, he's keeping the whole law. When he entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, pleading with him, Lord, my servant is lying at home paralyzed in terrible agony. He said to him, Am I to come and heal him? Lord, the centurion replied, I'm not worthy to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I too am a man under authority, having soldiers under my command. I say to this one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and he does it. Hearing this, Jesus was amazed and said to those following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with so great a faith. I tell you that many will come from the east and the west to share the banquet with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. He's talking about the Gentiles here again. But the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Jesus told the centurion, go, as you have believed, let it be done for you. And his servant was healed that very moment. Jesus went into Peter's house and saw his mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. So he touched her hand, and the fever left her. Then she got up and began to serve him. When evening came, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed, and he drove out the spirits with a word and healed all who were sick, so that what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah may be fulfilled. He took our weaknesses and carried our diseases. Again, Isaiah 53, that forbidden chapter for Jews to read. When Jesus saw a large crowd around him, he gave the order to go to the other side of the sea. And a scribe approached him and said, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. Again, he assumes that he's going to be the Messiah, right? So they assume that what we just read in Isaiah 60 is going to be coming. So they all want to get on the bandwagon for this so that they can, be one of the rulers in the new Jerusalem. Again, not understanding how it's going to be laid out. And Jesus, recognizing this, responds to that and says, foxes have dens and birds of the sky have nests. They have homes, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. He's saying, look, I'm not going to have any of these vast wealth or trappings of wealth you think I'm going to have, and you won't either. Lord, another of his disciples said, first, let me go bury my father. But Jesus replied to him, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. That'll preach. As he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. And suddenly a violent storm arose on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. But Jesus just kept on sleeping. So the disciples came and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us, we are going to die. And he said to them, why are you afraid, O you of little faith? And he got up and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men were amazed and asked, what kind of man is this? Even the winds and the sea obey him. We had come to the other side, to the region of the Gadarenes. 2 demon-possessed men met him as they came out of the tombs. Now, briefly, I forget if it's Mark. I think it's Mark. When Mark tells the same story, it's one guy. I don't know. It's just one of the things. There's also later on another guy where it says it's one person. Sorry, it says 2 people here, but it's one person in the other. I don't know what's up with that. I think this was before Mark was brought in, because Mark came afterward. He got most of his teaching from Peter, so Peter may have, toward the end of his life, said that it was only one guy, or just telling the story. I don't know what the story is. Just so you know, if an atheist comes up and says, oh, well, this one says 2, but the other one says 1, you can read the notes that explain kind of what it is. It's okay. Actually, here's a note here. Perhaps only one of these 2 demoniacs is exceedingly violent, so Mark and Luke mention only that one. Matthew may mention both to suggest that 2 witnesses attest this victory of Jesus over demons. Possibly. Let's read the text. When he had come to the other side, to the region of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men met him as they came out of the tombs. They were so violent that no one could pass that way. Suddenly they shouted, what have you to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? A long way off from them, a large herd of pigs was feeding. If you drive us out, the demons begged him. Send us into the herd of pigs. Go, he told them. So when they had come out, they entered the pigs, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and perished in the water. Then the men who tended them fled, and they went into the city and reported everything, especially what had happened to the 2 men who were demon-possessed. At that, the whole town went out to meet Jesus. When they saw him, they had fear of God, and they begged him to leave their region. And that is all of the notes. So, God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.